had UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Dos Anjos. Going into this, look, man, I was being a big old pansy about this because I was like, oh
Same.
no, Luque needs to be careful. Like, for those people I didn't don't know, Luque had an MRI, and what was it, like a brain bleed?
After he got knocked out by Jeff Neal, Hands of
Hands of
Steel Neal,
steel, Neil.
he had a ruptured vessel in his brain and had brain hemorrhaging, and that's why he's been out for a year. And I love how during the fight, the UFC's talking about he had to deal with adversity. He was out with an injury for a year, and they kept talking about it, but like you could tell they weren't allowed to talk about what it actually was, because like
Yeah, just tiptoeing around, like,
yeah, it was a bad injury he had to deal with. It's like, hey, his brain was bleeding from getting punched. So,
yeah.
and if you have to tiptoe around that, should he be fighting? Probably not.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll cover a little bit more about that after we go through the fight. So, hey, this is a new Luque though, and I think that this last fight,
Yeah, brain bleed,
where
Luque.
he had brain bleeding, made him realize,
Yeah,
like, hey, I can't just go balls to the wall and
yeah,
just throw caution to the wind all the time, because that was a Luque fight. Vicente
yep,
Luque, when you saw him on a card, you're like, guaranteed
banger.
banger right
Yeah,
away, right? But dude, you saw him slipping shots a lot more. He was so much more patient,
his
picking his
fight
shots.
IQ. Yeah, like
Yeah,
that was the thing that stood out for me the most. That and everyone's like RDA is still undersized for 170. Yeah, he definitely is.
he is. He is.
He is. Um, But at the same time, it's up to him to adapt to that, and he couldn't. Meanwhile, uh, Luque's fight IQ, the whole fight was fucking brilliant. It was so good.
Amazing.
And granted, RDA gave him the same game plan every single round, so he really didn't have to adapt or change direction or anything like that, because what he was doing was working. But that's not on him, Um, the whole fight, RDA has later on in RDA's career, it's been a lot of I'm going to pressure you. I'm going to get these hands going just real quick, and then I'm in on the takedown. His entries are fantastic. The way he sets up his
Mhm.
takedowns are so good. But you could tell Luque was like, he knew that. Every time RDA would explode with some punches, you could tell he's just like, I'm just going to shell up, and I know the takedown's coming. He'll get in on the hips, but I'm not going to, I know it's coming, so he's ready to defend. And it was basically that. He would defend the takedown, and he'd reverse him against the cage, and he'd outwork him on the cage. And then
Then he'd take him down.
yeah, and then he'd take him down, couldn't hold him down, and then they got back up, and then they'd separate, and then RDA
And
would close
repeat.
with some punches, shoot for the takedown, he'd
It's like a
defend it,
cycle.
he'd reverse him against the fence, he'd get the ankle pick, and they get back up. It was that the entire fight.
It
And
was, man.
I saw people complaining about the fight and stuff, and it's like, I mean, I thought it was pretty entertaining actually. I thought it was like a grueling battle. Obviously, it wasn't,
We watch it again.
no, I won't. But there's plenty of fights that I enjoy that I won't watch again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this would be like a 7.
I would say this is like a let's go 6.8.
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. 6.8. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Because it's competitive. You got a
Mhm.
couple of big names in there in Vicente Luque and Rafael dos Anjos. There's a lot of strategy behind it.
Yeah.
Like you said, you could see the strategy being implemented, and you could see the strategy around the counter being implemented. So it's a fun
Yeah.
chess match to
Well, it was cool
watch.
to see you get two sides of a coin, right? There's one guy who is showing a new facet to the game, which is his fight IQ, and he's not just throwing caution to the wind, standing there and trading with somebody. So it's cool to see the evolution of Luque, and I'm sure the brain bleed is part of it, right? Like you
Yeah,
said, I'm sure he's like, I'm
yeah.
not going to stand and trade with these guys anymore. I can win these fights without taking this massive damage. Mazzatoni says I enjoyed watching the wrestling in this fight. Me too.
For sure.
And then on the flip side of that coin, you see that RDA is not quite as creative as he used to be. He's long in this game. He's a little old in this game. Normally, from a champion, you'd think, hey, this 1-2 takedown, it's not working for me. I got to ditch that
Let me
and think
switch
of
it
something
up.
else. And he
Yeah.
couldn't. He couldn't adapt. And I saw people complaining about what terrible fight IQ. And it's like, do you know how hard it is? People people don't know how hard it is to just change what you're doing in a fight. It's really difficult. It's
Yeah.
really,
Well,
really
in a
difficult.
career, because
Exactly.
let's
This
be
is something
real,
that has
RDA
worked
has
for
been
him.
doing this for a long, long
Mhm.
time, and at 155, it was very successful. Very
Yeah,
successful.
yeah.
I wouldn't consider Luque the biggest 170er.
No,
Um,
he
but
isn't.
he looked big
Yeah, he
against
looked he looked
RDA.
bigger than RDA, but yeah, it wasn't like a massive like size difference thing that was like
Yeah,
whoa. But like you see RDA against someone like Usman. I mean, Usman's massive. You know,
yeah.
some of these guys are real big.
Hamzat,
Even Leon, yeah,
yeah.
Hamzat, yeah, Hamzat. He's not even a welterweight anymore. But yeah, it was a fun fight for me. If you're RDA, uh, I know this might sound stupid, right? But because it's like, hey, I'm a fighter. He signed up for it. We're in the cage. I have to win this fight. And a finish is obviously better.
Yeah.
Um, are you hesitant to hit him?
No.
He's a human. I think there might be some weird like I don't want to murder this guy. Like I
Mm,
said, this might be stupid, but I
depends on who
wonder
you
if there's
talk to.
yeah,
Sean
true.
Strickland, he would have gone harder, I think.
Sean Strickland's asking for this fight.
Yeah. It's on his contract. He's requested it already.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh Lord.
But I don't know,
But
man.
yeah, man.
He must have thought about it at least once. You know.
You know what was
But
crazy though is that at the end of the fight, you
mhm.
have DC talking to him. And he talks a little bit more in a way about the injury. Again, not very specific, but
Yeah,
even Luque says, "Hey, I'm not gonna lie, man. That first round, I was worried about getting punched. I was worried
yeah,
about getting hit."
yeah.
And
Luke is real as fuck, dude. I like that a lot. I was like, man,
yeah, dude, I
that's what
know.
I'm
And
here
that
for.
when I heard that, I was like, "Oh my god, that must be
I mean, could you
terrifying."
imagine? Could you imagine? Like, if I'm Luke, I'm asking for only wrestlers at this point. Hey, my takedown defense is pretty damn good. I'm not trying to fight these guys who could smoke me, you know?
Yeah, and then DC mentioned something else during the broadcast, right, where he said, "Hey, this is blah blah blah," and we told the commission
Oh
if
yeah.
we see anything going wrong, we stop the fight.
Yep. Well, did you
So
see after the fight? Immediately, the doctors are in on Luke. They just went to decision. Round ended. It wasn't a war. Immediately, the doctors are in there looking at him. It's like if we're doing that, why do we need to
why
be
is he
doing
fighting?
this?
Why is
Yeah,
he
like
fighting?
why are we taking
Yeah,
his
man.
chance, man? I mean, it's just terrifying, dude. It's the first time that I know of, in at least at this level, that this has been caught and allowed to proceed. Brain hemorrhaging,
Look, and I know that the Just Bleed gods are probably rolling their
lit,
eyes right now.
literally, yeah.
And those that pray to the Just Bleed gods are probably just rolling their eyes at us right now. But
Hmm.
I've enjoyed watching Luque, man. He seems like a cool dude.
Yeah.
And I think that the opportunity when we get to meet more and more fighters and
Hmm.
talk to them on a personal level and see like, man, these are some like good
Cool
people,
dudes.
man.
Yeah.
Cool dudes. I don't want to see anybody die in the octagon
No,
when
me
it
neither, man.
was when it could have possibly been avoided. But hey, Luque didn't. He had one of the best performances that I've seen from
Yeah.
Luque. He looks
Blessing in disguise.
rejuvenated, reinvigorated. I would
Brain
say.
hemorrhaging. One thing that was cool too is they called it out on the broadcast was that RDA had the ankle wraps on, and then you could see
Mhm.
the takedowns that Luque was getting was by reaching down, grabbing his ankles, pulling him out. Um, and
Better
halfway through the
grips,
fight,
huh?
they took halfway through the fight they took the wraps off, which is cool. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I like that he says, all right. But that was all I have for the main event. Did you have anything else?
No, I think this fight probably wasn't what people were hoping for. But like I said, I thought it was an interesting fight. Honestly, that's they don't need to all be back and forth barn burners. Interesting, like I want to see interesting matchups. This had an interesting outcome in my opinion. Like the way it
Yeah.
played out was interesting, and like sometimes that's enough. We can have bangers and these fights and still enjoy both of them. They don't all have to be
Like
bloodbaths.
Monster Tony said, enjoy the rest. There
Yeah,
are
it's
other
mixed
things
martial
in
arts.
MMA. It's mixed martial arts. Yeah. And
You know
a
what's
little bit
funny?
later, we'll cover some other fighters. I mentioned the fact that it's mixed martial arts.
Yeah, you know
A
what's
little
funny
teaser.
is there's people who are like, oh, the wrestling's so boring. Oh, this battle for position, I hate it. But then you're like, oh, you should watch the Muay Thai that one's putting on. They're like, Muay Thai, ugh. I'm an MMA fan. It's like, what is going on? It's crazy, man.
what What do you want?
Hey everybody, Romero and Will here. Thank you so much for watching that short clip. It's just a small clip of what we covered this last Sunday.
Yeah, if you want to check out the full fight card recap, the link is in the description, and it's going to be on screen at the end here. Don't forget to go back and watch our fighter interviews that we have. And don't forget to tune in live every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and you can join in on the fun.
Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It goes a long way. All right, everybody, thanks for watching that short clip from Story of the Fight.